So again from Spider, let's open up a file here in our course materials. This time you will navigate to our course material location of course under C/ML course. And this time we want the script spark k-means.py for our Apache Spark. So go ahead and open that up code file, and as before we are going to take an example that we did earlier in the course on a single PC using just scikit-learn, and we will actually do the same thing using Apache Spark. So we could actually scale this out to a whole cluster. So let's walk through this code. All right, so again some boilerplate stuff. We are going to import the k-means package from the clustering mllib package. We are going to import array and random from numpy because again we are free to use whatever we do. This is a Python script at the end of the day, and mllib often does require numpy arrays as input. And we are going to import the square root function and the usual boilerplate stuff. We need spark conf and spark context pretty much every time from PySpark. We are also going to import the scale function from scikit-learn. So again, okay to use scikit-learn as long as you make sure it's installed on every machine and running this job on, and also don't assume that scikit-learn will magically scale itself up just because you are running it on Spark. But since I am only using it for the scaling function, okay. Sorry. Alright, let's go ahead and set things up. So I am going to set a global variable. I am going to run k-means clustering in this example with a k of 5 with 5 different clusters. And I am gonna go ahead and set up a local Spark conf just running on my own desktop. I am gonna set the name of my application to Spark k-means and create a Spark context object that I can then use to create RDDs that run on my local machine. We will skip past this function for now. Go to the first line of code that gets run. First thing we are gonna do is create an RDD by us parallelizing in some fake data that I am creating, and that's what this create cluster data function does. Basically I am telling it to create 100 data point clusters around k centroids, and this is pretty much identical to the looked at when we played with k-means clustering earlier in this course. So if we want to refresh or go ahead and go back and look at that lecture, but basically what we are gonna do is create a bunch of random centroids around which we normally distribute, and some age and income data. So what we are going is trying to cluster people based on their age and income, and we are fabricating some data points to do that. Alright, so that returns a numpy array of our fake data. Now the other thing we are doing, so once that results come back from create cluster data, I am calling scale on it, and that will ensure that my ages and incomes are on comparable scales. I remember my lecture saying you have to remember about data normalization. This is one of those examples where it is important. So we are normalizing that data with a scale so that we get good results from k-means, and finally we parallelize the resulting list of arrays into an RDD using parallelize. So now our data RDD contains all of our fake data. All we have to do is, this is even easier than a decision tree. Call k-means.train on our training data, pass in the number of clusters we want, our k values, couple of parameters that put an upper bound on how much processing it's going to do. We are gonna tell it to use the default initialization mode of k-means, where we just randomly pick our initial centroids for our clusters before we start iterating on them, and back comes a model that we can use. We are gonna call that cluster. Now we can play with that. So let's start by printing out the cluster assignments for each one of our points. So we are going to take our original data and map that is transform it using this lambda function. This function is just going to transform each point into the cluster number that is predicted from our model. Okay. So again we are just taking our RDD of data points. We are calling clusters.predict to figure out which cluster our k-means models is assigning them to, and we are just gonna put the results in our result RDD. Now one thing I want to point out here is that, so an important thing when you are doing Spark is that anytime you are gonna call more than one action on an RDD, it's important to catch it first, because remember when you call an action on RDD, Spark goes off and figures out the DAG for it and how to optimally get that result, and we will go off and actually execute everything to get that result. So if I call two different actions on the same RDD, it will actually end up evaluating that RDD twice. And if you want to avoid all that extra work, you can catch your RDD in order to make sure that it does not recompute it more than once. So by doing that, we make sure these two subsequent operations do the right things. So in order to get an actual result of this result RDD, what we are going to do is use count by value, and what that will do is give us back an RDD that has how many points are in each cluster. So okay, so remember result RDD has mapped every individual point to the cluster it ended up with. So now we can use count by value to just count up how many values we use for each given cluster ID, and we can print that list out, and we can actually look at the raw results of that RDD as well by calling collect on it, and that will give me back of all of them. Now how do we measure how good our clusters are? Well, one metric for that is called the within set sum of squared errors. Wow, that sounds fancy. It's such a big term. We need an abbreviation for it, WSSE. All it is, we look at the distance from each point to its centroid, the final centroid in each cluster, take the square of that error and sum it up for the entire dataset. So it's just a measure of how far apart each point is from its centroid. Obviously, you know, if there is a lot of error in our model, then they will tend to be far apart from the centroid. That might imply that we need a higher value of k, for example. So we will go ahead and compute that value and print it out. To do that, we defined this error function that computes the squared error for each point. It just takes the distance from the point to the centroid, center of each cluster, and sums it up. So to do that, we are taking our source data, calling that lambda function on it that actually computes the error from each centroid center point, and then we can chain different operations together here. So we are calling mapped to first compute the error for each point, okay, and then you get a final total that represents the entire data set. We are calling reduce and on that result. So we are going data.map to compute the error for each point and then dot reduce to take all those errors and add them all together, and that's what this little reduced lambda function does. This is basically a fancy way of saying I want you to add up everything in this RDD into one final result. Okay. So reduce, we will take the entire RDD two things at a time and combine them together using whatever function you provide. So the function I am providing here is take the two rows that I am combining together and just add them. And if we do that throughout every entry of the RDD, we end up with the final summed up total. I might seem like a little bit of a convoluted way to just sum up a bunch of values, that by doing it this way we are able to make sure that we can actually distribute this operation if we need to. You know, we could actually end up computing the sum of this piece of the data over here on this machine in a sum of different piece over on this other machine, and then take those two sums and combine them together into a final result. So you see how that works. This reduced function is saying how do I take any two values, you know, intermediate result from this operation and combine them together. Sorry. So again, feel free to take a moment and stare at this a little bit longer if you want to sink in. Nothing really fancy going on here, but there are a few important points. We introduced the use of cache if you want to make sure that you don't do unnecessary recomputation on an RDD that you are going to use more than once. We introduced this sort of the reduce function, and we have a couple of interesting mapper functions. So there is a lot to learn from in this example, but at the end of the day it will just do k-means clustering. So let's go ahead and do that. So as before, we will open up an Anaconda prompt, you or your terminal on other platforms. We will cd to our course materials and let's type in a spark submit spark k-means.py and just let that run and see what happens. And we have a result, very cool. Sorry. Alright, so it looks like we first have a count by value here, and where it just showing how many of each point got assigned to each cluster, and these do seem pretty evenly distributed. We had 20 points categorized as cluster 2 and 20, 0, 2, 3, 20 and 17. So that's a good sign because we did create an even number of different points in our fabricated data that we were trying to train against. Once again, if you remember how we generate the data to begin with, we actually did generate one cluster at a time. So it's good sign that these are all together, all the 2s, all the 0s, all the 1s, all the 3s, and you know it start to get a little bit confused. With the 4s there is one thrown, couple more clusters. Some of these clusters were a little bit overlapping, it seems. And finally we got a WSSE metric actually computing how good it is of 20.3 85885. So it worked. We actually did k-means clustering using Apache Spark distributed potentially across a cluster if we had one. So very cool. And if you want to challenge for yourself to dive in every more deeply, here is few things here you can try that. We suggest try increasing or decreasing the value of k. One of the big challenges in k-means clustering is choosing the right value k. So see that impact, what impact that obviously there is a real value of k here that we generate the data with, and it will be informative to see what having the wrong value of k does to your results. Also, what happens if you don't normalize the input data before you mix it? Does that affect the quality of the algorithm? And what happens if you change the max iterations or runs parameters, the hyperparameters if you will, on the k-means algorithm?